Hi there, it's Erin here with Nutrition by Erin, and I'm doing another exciting interview today with Jeanne Cummings, who's a yoga expert, and she also specializes in the 8 limbs of yoga. She is going to tell us all about the connection between yoga, stress, and gut health and give us some of her best tips. So stay tuned for our 15-minute interview where we're going to dive deep into this connection. But first, I'll tell you a little bit more about Jeanne. She teaches yoga to other teachers, and she's also teaches yoga to healthcare specialists. She also teaches yoga at Prana Yoga, which is in La Jolla. So anyone who is in the San Diego area, definitely come check out her classes. I know I will. But today I have her virtually for this interview. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so yoga. Very popular. Lots of people are doing it these days, but often it can feel more like exercise versus really that mind-body connection that we're after. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with yoga and how it can help us to really de-stress versus using it more as a exercise modality?
Hi, Erin. Thanks for having me. Such a great question, and thank you for asking it. Definitely, you can look at stress in 2 ways, and you're right, a lot of people do come to yoga not realizing the greater benefits, and that's okay because eventually they do.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful thing. But if we take a look at stress in 2 ways, or where it's present in our life. So stress is stored in our body, right? And it gets stored in our body in different areas, and everyone stores it differently in the body. So some people store it, for example, in their stomach and digestive organs. Some people store it in their neck, in their heads, and they get headaches. Everyone stores it differently. But we do all store it in our body in different ways, in our muscles, in our organs, our nervous system, our glands. And so it definitely affects our entire body. So going to a yoga class, into the physical practice of yoga, we, stretch the organs and the muscles out. We twist them out. We're twisting the nervous system. We're opening and twisting glands. And so we're working the stress out of the body and beginning to clean it up. And that's why it's very important to physically work it out of the body, but also clean the diet up and work with people like you, Erin, so it doesn't continue to build back up. We want to really cleanse the body of those toxins. The second way to look at stress is in the environment. We get ourselves into stressful situations all the time. And so going to yoga and the physical practice of yoga is more than just the physical practice. We're practicing concentration. We're practicing being present. We're practicing with our breath. And so we take that, you've heard this before, likely off our mat. And when we find ourselves in the midst of a stressful situation, or in front of someone that's stressed out and having an outer body experience and saying things maybe they don't mean, we instead become less reactive and more present, and not absorbing the external stress, the environment, if you will.
Yeah, I love it because it's that physical part where you are twisting and turning and stretching. And that's super helpful, particularly for working out stress, because we all know that feeling like when you kind of tighten your shoulders and you get a knot in your neck, or what your lower back, or, we carry stress in different ways. So you have that physical component of yoga, as well as the teachings of mindfulness, presence, being aware of not only your body, but also your thoughts. And that really comes into play, when I'm teaching people about nutrition, because yes, I can tell you exactly what to eat and, hopefully you do it. But when you can be in the moment and making those mindful decisions about your food and your lifestyle and kind of everything you're doing, whatever you're learning in yoga can really transcend to your day-to-day life. So it's pretty powerful stuff. Now, just kind of backtracking a hot minute, because I think the viewers might want to know a little more about you. How did you get into yoga, and how long have you been doing it?
Oh, wow. I started yoga in 2000, actually. In my mid-20s, I was in the corporate world, and I had dropped out of college early in life to travel. I just wasn't ready, and I wanted to be out in the world and out in the business world. And then I put myself back into university and bought a bike, cycled around the city of Calgary, moved downtown, and I found a local yoga teacher. And at the time, she was the only yoga studio in town, and she taught hatha yoga.
Okay.
And it was powerful. And so I started there, and then I found my way into Bikram because of the cold winters, and I loved the classes. And then I did it intermittently. It wasn't until 2007 I met this wonderful woman, serendipitously. A friend kept telling me, I need to meet her. Finally, we did. And she's a yoga leader in the community, and she just, her style and the way she approached yoga made me fall in love with yoga. And I had a Pilates studio at the time, and I was teaching Pilates. I did a little switch in my life, and I dropped Pilates and just decided to go full time into yoga. And I didn't think about, it wasn't in my life plans to get a yoga certification. That fell in my lap, and Prana Yoga here in La Jolla asked me to teach right away. And so it just all kind of fell in my lap. And I definitely believe it's a huge part of my purpose in life. And in amidst that, the 8 limbs was introduced to me. And it's often offered just a sliver of it in yoga certification, sometimes not. But the 8 limbs essentially are the prerequisites to connection to self and to meditation. Also, meditation is a prerequisite to connection to self. And it was a tool that really I keep going back to, that helped me really find my centeredness and balance and peacefulness within. And I continue to go back to when I get thrown off balance, because I do. And I started teaching it to the yoga community, to other teachers in training, and then to a couple of doctors have invited me to speak with their patients, and it just took off from there.
Well, that's amazing. And I feel like you mentioned your part of your journey with falling in love with yoga was kind of finding the right form of yoga at the right time in your life with the right teacher, and it kind of just all connected with you. And so I think that's a big tip when I'm trying to encourage people to, they don't have to do yoga for, to find that connection, but it is very helpful, and it's just about finding what feels right for the individual.
Absolutely.
So how have you seen within, the clients that you work with or the classes that you teach, how have you seen yoga really impact people's health? Or have you seen that in a physical way or in any other way?
Oh my gosh. One story that just came to mind is a yoga student that came to my class, and he was on pills for his, I want to say it was cholesterol, to lower his cholesterol. He came to yoga twice a week. He started twice a week. He eventually, after a year, moved his practice up to 3 times a week. And after a year and a half, the doctor allowed him to completely go off of his medication. It was such a great story. What a transformation in his body, in his mind, in his energy, in the way he approached life. He was a businessman, had a couple businesses, very busy. I touched base with him 2 years ago. He found the love of his life. I see stories like that. I see business people and therapists and students come into my class all the time that's, again, they walk in because they're stressed, or maybe but they're even having a bout of depression, or they're down, and so it lifts them up. It changes their mindsets, as you say. Mm-hmm. It does change the body, and the body affects the mind, and the mind affects the body, and they work in sync. And so I can mention countless stories. It's miraculous.
That's great. And I know when I was growing up, I was maybe I still am a little bit, but I was just very type A and needed, intensity at all times and perfection at all times, and didn't really leave room for rest, relaxation, being kind to myself, all of those wonderful things. And I actually, tried to go into yoga, and I would walk right out. I just couldn't, I was very resistant to it. And then after college, I was going through a tough time emotionally, just with the transition, figuring out who I was. Like, it was just really tough for me. And I think there was a lot of also changes in my health going on at that time as well. And I finally, it clicked with yoga. And I craved it, and I would get to class and I've never felt so good. And I would take it away with me as well, throughout the week. So, I was probably going maybe 3 times a week with that consistency, and it just had such a positive influence on me. So I know firsthand, that transformation that you can see.
That's so beautiful.
So in terms of gut health specifically, have you noticed that, for yourself or anyone that you've worked with, that there's anything specific between, doing yoga, the practice of yoga, and digestion?
Absolutely. What's interesting, in society is there, I think that there's a root cause, and the root cause in my life's work is to become aware that the root cause is disconnection to self. And so that impacts our digestion for sure. What's interesting is we spend so much of our life trying to disconnect from self and yet we crave connection so much. And it all starts with connection to self. And so the practice of yoga, the physical practice of yoga, is the first step to help us connect to ourselves. And so as it relates to digestion, when we're disconnected from ourselves, we are not aware of what we are feeding our bodies. And this is a complex ecosystem working here. And so when we're disconnected and we're in anxiety or stress, worrying about the future, or we might be feeling down or depressed about something in the past, we typically live future or past, we metabolize, or we're digesting so many things. Again, our mind, the unhealthiness of our body, the toxins that live in the body can affect the mind eventually. And the stableness of the mind can affect the body's health. And so it throws this entire ecosystem in disharmony. And our digestive system is the most powerful tool for where so much of what we digest and the connection to the mind is huge. Also our intuition is connected to that. And so throwing our entire body out of disharmony by being disconnected to what we're eating and to everything that we're feeding our body, food, what we smell, what we're hearing and taking in, our internal environments completely impacts that. And so going to a physical yoga practice is the first step, the first prerequisite to connection. And it's funny because I have people come into my class all the time, and I mention it. When you're in a pose and there's an injury, or you feel something off in the body, or Erin, you'll recall a time you've been in a class and you resisted a pose. It was either tight or your mind just wanted to escape it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens. You spend so much time escaping it. And so instead, what that pose is asking us to do is just take a breath, stay with it, because there's so much knowledge right there in our body to connect, let go of those toxins that are stuck in there. And it's all about, that's what it's all about.
It's so deeply connected. It's so cool to even think about, but you're right. Like I'm literally thinking of being in, because I have some tight hips, so I'll be in like a pigeon pose, and they usually ask you to hold it for quite some time. And my brain will start thinking about how can I how can I escape this moment and how can I get through it? And it's a little bit of a panic. And then you hear your teacher remind you, just breathe into that feeling, breathe, especially in the part of the body that's tight. And it can make such a difference. But how that translates to off the mat is when we're in these challenging moments and these stressful moments. And again, stress is a self-perception. So it might be a work deadline, it might be family stress, it might be financial stress, whatever it is. But that uncomfortable feeling off the mat, we're better able to maybe cope with it, breathe through it, realize maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I do have the strength and the ability to handle it. And then I think how that then translates to digestion is, like the body requires that level of peace to fully digest well. Like they always say, when you're out running from the tiger, the last thing your body needs is to digest food. It's going to do other things like send blood to the muscles, get you to run, heighten your awareness, but it's not going to digest. So if we can bring that level of peace and that stress down, you're going to digest like a champion, for the most part.
Perfectly said. Exactly. One of the things that's important with connection is that definitely that feeling of relaxed that you just mentioned and staying present. And so yoga does help with that. And the more we do it, the more we are able to practice that connection and slowing down instead of multitasking. For so many years, we were patted on the back for multitasking. And today, because there's so much we're inundated by, multitasking isn't the cool thing anymore. Focusing on one thing is the cool thing. And so that is really important when we're in the kitchen making our food, right? And again, talk about internal and external environments. Hopefully we're making our food and we're really present with, I'm stirring the soup right now. And there's actually meditation practices where we practice that just so we can do that more mindfully. And we're sitting at the table to really slow down and focus just on eating. And hopefully we're sitting at the table with our family, our good friends, and we're very present with them and connecting in our hearts, because that also all affects digestion. So staying present.
It does, for sure. And, it's like that feeling of, everyone knows it when they're being a little bit mindless and maybe you're sitting in front of the TV and maybe you have Facebook on your phone and you're just like eating a snack and what did I just eat? Did I even taste it? Like, how did I just finish the whole bag of chips? So I think that mindfulness can transcend to a lot of areas. So we're finishing up here and I kind of want some good takeaways. So I guess the first question I have is, are there any specific poses or specific types of yoga that you would recommend that are most helpful for either health or digestion specifically?
I love that question. And, today, first of all, the takeaways are definitely get to yoga class. It's really important to remember that every body and mind is different. So everybody has a different mind, a different ailment, different ways that they store stress, different ways that they approach the world, different ways that they approach themselves. And we also have a different mind constitution. Are we more prone to anxiety? Are we more prone to depression? Are we more, just as an example? And so, and the same thing. So it is important to actually incorporate diet and hiring people like you to make sure they're on the right diet and make sure they do specific poses more often for the digestive ailments. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But the most important thing is to get to yoga class and think of the body as a whole, body, mind, and spirit, and not just do a couple poses for digestion, because again, this is a complex system. It all works together. So have a good balanced practice of stretching side to side, forward and back. Back bends open up the stomach and the digestive organs. So actually, if you have a stomach ache, it's good to do a back bend. People tend to curl over. They actually want to open it up to let the energy move away. Depending on the ailment, twists are really good. So there are a couple different things, but definitely having a well-rounded practice is important because different organs affect everything. back in the old days, in the origination of yoga, yoga was only prescribed per person. So they didn't have classes. It was always one-on-one, and the classes were designed as per the person's mind constitution and body constitution. So today, if you go to a class, keep that in mind, do a good balanced practice. Your own body's intelligence will start telling you. You can begin to ask your instructor questions as you get to know your body and your ailments and what's really going on. But particularly if you're having those digestive issues, again, do a well-balanced practice, do some openers, twists, things like that.
Perfect. So a good combination of being consistent, getting to class, finding teachers that you like, and then maybe on your own in between classes, you can throw in like more specific poses if they feel good for you and your body.
Absolutely. And I would probably, it sounds like we're finishing up, the 3 things I would want to leave your audience with is 3 things. Start by cleaning your internal and external environment up. So clean up the diet. The diet does everything we take in. It does affect the mind. Get to your yoga class, do a good, well-balanced body, because the body affects the mind. And in that yoga class, we use the breath to bring the mind into the body for that union and connection, to tap into the intelligence, and also to clean up the mind, be able to train it to be present. And the 3rd thing is you have to have the discipline to do that. That discipline to clean up the diet and stay consistent, and to get to yoga class twice a week when you're feeling tired or you don't feel like cooking and you want to run to the convenience store, to fast food or things like that. Have the discipline to stay consistent. I just watched an incredible video by Kerwin Rae, Kerwinrae, and I believe the video is called Freedom. But his whole 3-minute video is completely discussing discipline and the importance of it. And actually, discipline is one of the limbs of yoga, the prerequisites to connection to the body. So I definitely recommend those 3 things. Clean up your internal environment and external environment, get to your yoga class, and make sure you have the discipline to stick with it and do both.
Those are great tips. Now, is that a YouTube video I can link up?
It is. It's a YouTube video.
All right, cool. Now, if people want to find you and learn more about you, where can they head?
Yes, thank you. I have a website, Jeanne Cummings, JeanneCummings.com. I'm in the middle of changing it. Find me there. And if you're living in La Jolla or you're visiting La Jolla, come to me at Prana Yoga and take one of my classes. And we look forward to connecting with you.
Very good. Well, I will link up all of that stuff so people can connect with you. And then I will try and make it to your class tomorrow, right?
Yes, okay. I can't wait. You're going to be my guest.
All right, cool. I'm pretty excited. Well, thanks again for taking the time out from your day to help us all out with your expertise in yoga. It's definitely apparent that this is so a part of you, and we can learn so much from listening to the experts in the field. So I appreciate your time today. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Erin. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you.
Bye.
Bye.